to another edition of Wildlife Sounds from the Forest. And Matt's here joining us again. And we have a seasonally appropriate sound for today.
Yes. So one, not necessarily on the animal's biological season,
Mhm.
but one on our stomach season, I guess, would be the best way of putting it.
Right, right. So,
So are you ready for me to get into
yeah,
it?
let's go ahead and hear what this sound is.
All right. So this is our November edition Wildlife Sounds from the Forest. I think pretty much, I would guess about 95% of folks know.
I would say so. I would agree with that one. Well,
Now,
let's see it anyway.
yes. So now this is actually, you got a little bit of both male and female going there. But, if you haven't figured it out, this is one that you should know as probably our most popular game bird in North America, or one of the most popular game birds in North America, the wild turkey.
Wild turkey, yes. And I'm sure a
Yes.
lot of us will be participating in wild turkey tomorrow.
Yes, I would imagine a lot of folks are going to be sampling the domesticated version of the wild turkey. But that one's probably the most well-known sound, right? That gobble. Now
Mhm.
we've got a few other sounds that these guys make. One, whoop, guess I have to do that. There we go. With another button. So we've got a couple other sounds. These guys actually have a pretty diverse vocal repertoire in terms of communicating to each other.
Yeah, I would not say that's a turkey.
No, it's not one that people think of, right? And that's actually the hen, which is that higher pitch. She's walking around letting either other hens know where she is. She sounds a little upset, actually.
She does.
So they may have called her in, and she's one of the things that you can do, tricks that turkey hunters will do, is they'll actually interrupt the hens and talk over them. And evidently, female turkeys do not like to be talked over, and they
Interrupted.
come in looking for a fight, right? So that's one of the things. And she's just making some yelps, is what they're called.
Mhm.
And then there's yelps, there's clucks, there's also called a kiki, which is something we're not going to get into. And then there's a couple others that are behaviorally related.
Mhm.
So like this one. Which is, you hear some soft yelps and then a very quick sounding dog, and then and then some very fast, what we call a cackle, right there at the end. And that actually is something that we hear right as the turkey will fly down out of the tree. It's called a fly down cackle. So those are some of the examples of sounds that turkeys make. Uh,
Mhm.
Obviously, there's quite a few more, but some that most folks may hear if they're walking in the woods, especially.
Right. So I've seen a lot of turkeys that have white feathers. Is that the domesticated?
No, so there's actually a genetic variant out there. Actually, I've seen quite a few of them in north central Kentucky.
Mhm.
They are often referred to as the smoky phase, and it's just a little bit, so they're not necessarily crossbred with domestic turkeys or anything. It's actually a small variation in the wild population. Just like hens can actually have the beards like the gobblers have.
Mhm.
Good percentage of hens actually have that.
Mm.
So there's some variation naturally occurs in the populations.
Okay. And how many? What are they called? Turkey
Pulse.
poults.
Pulse.
Okay. How
I knew
many
you were gonna
poults
ask
do they
that.
have?
So usually a hen in the spring will lay between 10 and 12 eggs in a nest before she starts incubating them. Now they're very low on the totem pole in terms of being eaten. So a lot of times their nests will get raided by things like skunks and raccoons and possums.
Mm.
Every once in a while, a coyote may happen across them, or a bobcat. But usually she'll have about 10 to 12 eggs, and if she's successful in incubating them, those poults will grow fairly quickly, eating insects and berries. But they also are very exposed to elements, environmental elements, wetness and cold. The first week or two can take a few out on top of predators.
Mm. And do they build their nests on the ground or up in the trees or?
They are a ground nesting bird, and they will nest in the forest next to a down log. Just basically make a little bowl out of leaves in the dirt. In the grasslands, they'll just kind of find a clump of grass and lay next to it, or underneath the native grasses. They'll get under it, and they it takes them they lay one egg a day, just like chickens. So it takes them a while. And what they usually do is they'll actually have their nest site, they'll lay an egg, and then they'll run away from it and go hang out in a completely different area, and then come back to it and lay another egg the next day and then run away, because they don't want to draw attention to where those eggs are.
I see.
So they will actually do quite a bit of running around per se. So they don't stick around until they start incubating those eggs.
Okay. And I never thought of them as big flyers, but it look like they could fly?
Oh, they are, so usually adults and juveniles, as soon as they can, will roost in trees at night because that's where they're the safest. So the ground predators are the highest on the list. Every once in a while, a great horned owl may try to take out a turkey in a tree, but they're very limited in terms of what's after them when they're up in a tree. But most of the time during the day, they spend walking around on the ground.
Well, you have any other fun facts for us for this day before Thanksgiving special, I guess you'd say?
No, other than I hope everyone's able to enjoy their meal tomorrow, and this very different looking Thanksgiving this year. But I hope everyone has a great holiday.
All right. You too.